Hey guys, today we are going to work on monologues, the basic principles of how to start an acting and how you're going to figure out what a monologue is talking about. So, if you are taking a class or something and you have a monologue you're supposed to read and your teacher tells you to read the whole play, don't try and get out of it. I promise you it won't do you any good. Read the whole script and then the monologue that you're supposed to. Figure out what you're doing. Reason you do this is to know my character acts a certain way. When you find out if your character acts a certain way, then you can read your monologue however you're supposed to. Now, if you use the excuse that you don't have time, you have time, I promise you. I know it sucks to stay up late or get up early or read during your free time, but that's life. So read your whole script and then go back and figure out what your monologue is, your character talks about, like who they are. Figure out if they're happy, sad, depressed. Figure out their mood, what their actions are based on, whether they're out there or if they're to themselves, very isolated from everybody, or if they're just normal, kind of chill. You always want to find those distinctive characteristics, otherwise you don't get the right character traits out and the audience gets confused. So, today we're not going to read a full script, we're just going to read a monologue. I can give you the story details. So, we're reading what's called The Pretty Girl Basket Toss. It's newly written, it's very great. If you've never heard of it, it's fantastic, love it, completely adore it. There is this main character, Jill Jamison. She is the high school cheerleader. She's your typical classic blonde cheerleader. She's petite, she's blonde, obviously, and very, very preppy. She's got a lot of character to her, very bubbly, so she's obviously going to be a more happy character. Her actions through this play, though, become sad and very isolated. Her boyfriend is Brad Masters. He sneaks off with her friend Ashley. He breaks up with Jill to be with Ashley. And Megan is on the B list of the cheerleading squads. There's two, A list, B list. B list is not what you want to be on if you're trying out. That's okay if you are. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying usually you want to be on the A list. But B list, Megan is not cheering. She doesn't have a uniform. She is very upset about that. So she's very odd, though. She is very out there. She's an outcast. She doesn't have a lot of friends. None of the cheerleaders talk to her. She's just out there completely. She wants to be on the A list. So in order to do that, she has to get rid of someone else. How she does that, she goes through Jill, using her weaknesses, and those weaknesses become like obstacles for Jill to have to get over. And there's obviously obstacles for every character. Megan encounters lots of obstacles herself. So I'm going to read this monologue that Jill is saying to Megan. When you read a monologue, you read it to the audience. You don't read it facing this way to your partner or this way, who's ever over here. You read it straight out to the audience. You have to read it to them. It's to them, even though it's directed to the other character or characters, depending on how many are on stage, depending on who it's for. In this case, it's two characters. So Jill and Megan. Jill says, "I wanted to see him. I had to. So I went down to the practice field. That's the last thing he said to me. He had to go to practice. He had to go to practice. So I went down there, Megan, just as strong and proud and pretty as can be. And the whole team and the coaches and everything, they all just stared at me like nothing you've ever seen. Every one of them. It felt like 100 eyeballs with grabbing hands. Just every one of them taking a little piece of something from me I didn't even know I had. And I thought for a second they were staring because I'm so pretty. And I wanted to stare to be his. And I wanted to stare back to see if my eyeballs had hands too. I tried to search them out of the crowd, but I couldn't see through all that looking. And when my eyes finally focused, their faces, well, it was different when there were only two eyes looking back. And I realized they're not staring because I'm pretty, they're staring because they know. Some of you might be asking, why did I read that in monotone? Reason being, because you want to start off that way. You want to figure out, what are they talking about? What's going on in the situation before you actually read it the way you would on stage. Now, you probably heard within the first couple sentences that it repeats. He had to go to practice. He had to go to practice. Do not ever repeat it the same. I don't care what play you're doing, unless your director tells you it needs to be exactly the same. Like if you're doing a comedy, usually they'll repeat stuff the same way. It'll be like, he had to go to practice. He had to go to practice. But either way, it's still kind of different. It's like you never repeat it exactly the same way. So I'm going to read, that's the last thing he said to me and so on. That's the last thing he said to me. He had to go to practice. He had to go to practice. Now that's one way you can do it. Or you can do it other ways, obviously. So here's another option for doing that. That's the last thing he said to me. He had to go to practice. He had to go to practice. I mean, you can do it different ways, obviously. So pick different ways of trying to figure out what ways you can do it. What way sounds the best? What way seems to be like your character? Just never portray your character. Just always stay the same character. So I'm going to read the whole thing in a way you would do it. Or I would do it. I wanted to see him. I had to. So I went down to the practice field. That's the last thing he said to me. He had to go to practice. He had to go to practice. So I went down there, Megan, just strong and proud and pretty as can be. And the whole team and the coaches and everything, they stared at me like nothing you've ever seen. Every one of them, it felt like 100 eyeballs with grabbing hands. Every one of them just taking a little piece of something from me I didn't even know I had. And I thought for a second, they're staring because I'm so pretty. And I wanted to stare to be his. I wanted to see if my eyeballs had hands too. I tried to search him out of the crowd, but I couldn't see through all that looking. And when my eyes finally focused, their faces, well, it was different looking through 2 eyes at a time. And I realized, I'm not staring because I'm pretty. They're staring because they know. Now, that last line, they're staring because they know. She's talking to Megan about how Megan spieled to everybody. Megan eventually said, the next line is, nobody knows. She's telling Megan's telling Jill, nobody knows about this. It's a secret. I didn't spiel to anybody. Maybe it was someone else. I don't think everyone knows that you guys broke up, okay? It's okay. She's trying to comfort her, trying to make her think she's on her side when she's not at all. And there's a part for a second where they're staring because I'm so pretty. It becomes a thought bubble, basically. It's a flashback. So you'd be like, and I thought for a second, I'm staring because they're so pretty. Like, what would you, when you first walk into a room, you think, oh my gosh, I look awful. I'm not wearing what I'm supposed to be wearing. I look different from everybody else. I'm uglier than everybody else, or I'm prettier than everybody else. I know what I'm doing. I'm here to show off. I mean, in this case, she's saying, I'm here to show off. I'm great. I'm beautiful. I know what I'm doing. Turns out not to be the case. She's scared. She ends up getting scared. She's intimidated. She is trying to find comfort within Brad. So she's looking for Brad. She's trying to search for Brad and see, maybe I'll be okay if he's here. I'll be comforted. Nobody will know. Oh my gosh, she's single now. She's the worst girlfriend ever. They broke up. Oh my gosh. So she's like, I'm trying to look for him, and that's when she eventually figures out, as she's trying to look for him and trying to be like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I got this. Oh yeah. And then she's like, oh wait, crap. I'm stuck in the middle of a football field looking embarrassed and I'm a failure. She's like, I completely lost my reputation. So she's scared, obviously, and she decides to go back to practice like she's supposed to be and talk to Megan. Well, Megan, she thinks Megan told everybody. Megan lies about it, says she didn't. Let's find another. I'm gonna find another sentence. Every one of them, it felt like 100 eyeballs of grabbing hands. Just every one of them taking a little piece of me of something a little piece of something from me I didn't even know I had. Okay, how I would read this would be like this. And the whole team, the coaches and everything, they all just stared at me like nothing you've ever seen. Every one of them, it felt like 100 eyeballs of grabbing hands. Just every one of them taking a little piece of something from me I didn't even know I had. And I thought for a second. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to go over. So she is scared. She doesn't know what to do. She's stuck. She's encountered an obstacle. Now, I said that kind of fast. Shouldn't have. When you're on stage, slow. Some people, they oh my gosh, they're speaking gibberish at this point. Directors will chew you out if you speak in gibberish, I promise you. I have heard it multiple times. It is a crime to speak in gibberish unless it's written in the script. Just take a deep breath and read it in a way that would be the best way to read it. And always find multiple ways of saying it and give your director options. So say it one way, and like if you guys are rehearsing, say it one way, and then in another, your next run through of it, say it in a different way. And if your director doesn't like it the first way, and they're like, oh, I liked it that time, keep it that way. Keep it that way. Or if they say, I like the first one better, do what you did first. Always remember what you do. Don't ever forget what you do. So, just try and search for your character within your monologue. If you really don't have time to read a full script, or if it's like you're going to an audition, you don't have to read the full script. If you're just grabbing one, find someone who knows what it's about. If you have no clue what it's about, like if it's Beauty and the Beast and you've watched that 1,000 times, don't read the whole thing, obviously. Some scripts are going to be different, so make sure you know. Usually all the characters will stay the same, unless it's written by a different person. Like if it's rewritten, it'll be a little bit different. But you can usually just you know what's going on, and you know, okay, this is Belle is scared. She's at the castle. Her father's gone. She's frightened. At that scene, you obviously know what to do, how to act. So that is the monologue and figuring out what you're supposed to do. I hope you guys enjoyed this and it helped. Bye.